Okay, so we got Wayne Brady, we got Kathy Lee, and we got Drew Carey. Tubby, whenever you happen to come in, you can be that one tall, dark-haired guy that was on sometimes. I forget his name.
Greg?
Greg. Sure, let's go with Greg.
Greg Poops?
I'm Drew Carey's less well-known, less successful brother, Gary Carey. He didn't have his brother's good looks. He couldn't make it in Hollywood.
Hey.
Hello, everyone. What you're looking at here is footage for an early access horror-focused co-op game on Steam. Yeah, I know, right? Really breaking new ground on this channel. It's called In Silence, and really basically it's sort of like a low-rent Evolve, if you're familiar with that game. It's a very, very low-budget riff on that whole concept of an asymmetrical multiplayer game where you have a group of survivors, in this case up to 4, up against one incredibly powerful monster. The goal for the monster is to kill all of the survivors, and the goal for the survivors is to, well, survive. It's about as basic a setup as it gets. Now, normally I would have just recorded some gameplay with myself and my friends, do some funny bits in the editing while trimming it down, upload it, and call it a day. However, because of how this game works, there isn't really much of any audible banter compared to most of the other videos of that type that I've made before, so I thought this would be a golden opportunity to try something that is genuinely quite new to this channel, namely kind of a first impressions commentary / critique thing on this game after the fact. I'll let you know what I thought was good and where I thought the game needs improvements. And this is an early access game on Steam, and the developers are very aware that the game, while playable, is obviously unpolished and unfinished in some respects, and they are actively asking for feedback, and this seemed like a fun and interesting way to do that. You can't properly teabag in this game. The first thing we noticed when we all started trying to play the game is the connection issues and stability issues. Specifically, more than one of us had a hard time even getting the game to load at all, and then others of us had a very unreliable connection. Early on, before we could even get a proper game going, the lobby we had created just took a notion and decided to boot us, requiring us all to restart the game. I think it took Tubby close to a half an hour to even be able to join the lobby in the first place.
Is one of the achievements to get to the main menu?
Hey.
I'm just gonna upload a 30-minute video of just this screen.
ROTFLO.
But then we finally got to play the game, and I got randomly chosen to be the Rake our first time through. If you're unfamiliar with what the Rake is, or are unlearned in creepypastas in general, it doesn't matter. What matters is the gimmick with the Rake is that it doesn't have very good eyesight. This naturally means that the Rake is going to mainly be getting by on its comparatively good hearing. So if anything on the map makes a noise, it's going to ping on the little radar compass thing that the Rake has on the bottom of the screen, which gives it an indication of where some sweet, tender, succulent humans are. The humans, meanwhile, are going to be trying to avoid the Rake at all costs while they try and fix their car that conveniently broke down in this area that... Actually, I'm not too sure what this is supposed to be, whether it's a farm or some kind of park. It's kind of random. Now, when I say anything on the map that makes a noise will ping on your radar as the Rake, I do mean anything, and you will occasionally be led astray by crows cawing or something else making noise, including the various random items like radios, TVs, squeaky teddy bears, and these goddamn motherfucking jack-in-the-boxes. That said, about the first thing I noted while playing this game is that the game seems a bit unbalanced in favor of the Rake, and some of this has to be down to all of us learning how to play this game and my friends as the survivors the first time around learning the limits of what they could do and what was safe and what wasn't. But I got all three of them pretty quickly my first and only time as the Rake. Ashton and Anita were done in like 5 minutes or so. Tubby took a little bit longer because he was just overall better at evasion than either Anita or Ashton. But yeah, cleaned my friends up pretty quickly as the Rake, all told. The Rake has some special abilities that are on a cooldown. It has this super sprint that lasts a few seconds and allows it to run twice as fast as the normal sprint. It's got this hiss thing that makes it a little easier for it to see temporarily. And it can also jump really high. I don't make great use of any of these abilities as the rake, but that doesn't matter too much because the survivors are all but completely defenseless against the rake. There are bear traps they can set, there are scarecrows they can lay around as decoys, there's a camouflage suit which I have little reason to believe actually works all that well and is mostly just hilarious to look at. The main thing the survivors have going for them is the flashbang, which has a finite number of uses, and once they're used up, they're pretty much screwed if they get caught again. There is also the armory, but I'll touch more on that a bit later. While seemingly overpowered, the rake was nonetheless really fun to play. You feel really powerful and dangerous running around as this monster despite the reduced visibility, which contrasts quite nicely with playing as a survivor. Granted, I think my first time as a survivor went a little more smoothly than my friends did. One, because I was appointed as the guide, meaning the game apparently randomly decided to give me a little compass that tells me exactly where to find all the important buildings and landmarks on the map, including the car that we have to repair. For another, somehow I managed to never once even see Anita as the rake. Apparently Tubby and Ashton had a good couple of close calls with her, but I never saw her once. I was more or less free to wander the map with my little guide and start fixing the car, and I almost got it completely done. Not too sure what to make of that. I think I just heard someone die. The guide delegation indicates to me that the game really wants the survivors to work together to some degree, but at the same time, staying clustered together seems like a great way to just give the rake a buffet of humans to consume rather quickly, so I don't know. There was almost no teamwork this whole play session. Everyone just kind of walked around and did their own thing. Ashton here being a dumbass with a camouflage suit. Actually, the first couple of times I saw him, I thought he was a random NPC or something because his name wasn't popping up for me. I was genuinely very confused by that. That bitch is scaring the shit out of me. Tubby, on the other hand, spent most of his time finding a hiding spot and camping the whole round. Sometimes when he got bored, he would call out to the rake and or throw rocks at it to distract it. Oh yeah, the survivors can throw rocks to distract the rake. That's a novel feature and totally works all the time. Aside from that, survivors are given random attributes at the beginning of each round of varying utility. Like the random attributes that affected armory items never came into play because we only unlocked the armory once in the 3 hours we played, and we had to basically cheat in order to make that happen. The ones that affected flashbang were genuinely quite nice. You can flash the rake more times than you normally would. You don't have to keep track of where batteries are. There's one that supposedly allowed you to repair the car faster, but it's such an imperceptible boost that I couldn't honestly tell you if the perk actually worked or not. Maybe if I did some kind of side-by-side comparison, but I don't really feel like doing that. Ashton actually made pretty quick work of me his first time as the rake. One, because I was actually trying to play the game and not just hiding out like a little bitch. But two, I was not putting as much effort into being stealthy as I probably should have. I think having zero contact with Anita when she was the rake gave me a false sense of security, so I was just walking around with my flashlight out looking for the car items, and that's not what you want to be doing. The best strategy I've found involves keeping your distance, minimizing flashlight use, and crouching down the moment you spot the rake, no matter how far away it actually is. Or else you're going to get disemboweled, and then your spirit will occupy a rat that's running around the map and actually appears in the main menu and lobby screen of the game. The rat is kind of a cute idea. It's a lot like Phasmophobia, where if you get killed by a ghost, you continue to roam around as a ghost that can't interact with anything. Although the way the camera works for the rat, maybe your spirit is actually shrunk and, in fact, riding around on the back of the rat like a Lilliputian. Being a rat in this game is a little more interactive and more fun than in Phasmophobia, though. One, because you're not in the ghost zone and can just see things normally, but for another, you can actually squeak as the rat. After Ashton killed me the first time, I naturally tried distracting him with squeaks. Apparently, according to Tubby, when he tried this later, it does work, but maybe Ashton was onto me from the beginning or something, because it didn't seem to be working when I tried it. Oh. Hi, Tubby. My third time as a survivor, I put more effort into not getting spotted, and I have mixed feelings about the overall experience of being a survivor. On the one hand, the steps you have to take to avoid being found by the rake can be tedious. Crouch walking around is painfully slow, and it feels like I spent about half my time as a survivor the third time in that stance because it makes no noise as compared to walking, which does make noise. If it were maybe 10% faster, it wouldn't be quite so agonizing. On the other hand, I was never again the guide, which meant I had to actually make a mental map of where everything was and actually use the signs that were so helpfully placed near the spawn points of the map. I had to rely on visual cues that told me where certain things were. For example, one way to locate the car is its headlights, which are on. So it only makes sense that one of the things you have to find to fix the car is a battery. You have to rely on your memory and your hearing a lot more because you do not want to have your flashlight on all the time because the rake can actually see that fairly easily. And as tedious as it can be, it does make for a more nerve-wracking experience, and it does give a feeling that you're just barely scraping by. Gotta try and keep tabs on him, while also trying to get places. Holy shit. This is actually slightly stressful. This game feels like it owes a lot to those old Slender Man games, you know the ones. For one thing, they all run on the Unity engine, but for another, they are all randomized find-it games in a wooded environment that it's unclear what exactly the purpose of this place was. There are houses with furniture and everything in them, but the drawers and cabinets are all completely empty, except again for these goddamn things. There's even a poor old pupper sitting and crying in a cage that I didn't know until Tubby Googled it. It actually leads you back to the car. It suggests that whoever lived here had enough time to pack up all their shit and leave before they were eaten alive by the horror in the woods. Except the dog, apparently. Who's the real monster here? It ultimately adds up to a rather hollow and artificial feel to everything. Despite the evidence of habitation, it feels rather lifeless. It feels gamey, for lack of a better term. In Silence definitely runs a lot better than Slender the Arrival, though. For the most part, I noticed what was either some lag or frame rate hiccups that felt like they were getting progressively worse the longer I played. Every so often I would wind up totally disoriented as I was suddenly looking in a different direction than where I was looking before. Whoa, what? Oh my god, what is with that? I will say, though, the rake model is pretty cool. I was trying to think of how to describe it, and the only thing I could come up with was it looks like if someone got into Seth Brundle's telepod with a possum or something, and then got turned into a necromorph from Dead Space. About shit myself the first time I saw Ashton creeping up on me in the barn, so kudos for that. Oh my god! Shit. Oh, no, get down there. Oh my god. Fuck me, that was terrifying. This is a pretty funny moment right here. I have to say, I'm pretty glad I had push to talk turned on so nobody could hear me just beside myself with terror and incredulity right here as Tubby just kept finding me and killed me. Yeah, Tubby overall came out the best in almost every round we played. He cleaned up as the rake in his one and only jaunt at it, and I think at least part of it is he made more frequent and probably better use of the abilities than either I or Ashton did. For another, he kept his head down as the survivor, like I said. He found a hiding spot and stuck to it, which is a legitimate strategy. By default, the survivors have 15 minutes to find all the car parts, repair the car, and escape. After multiple rounds, I think we all pretty well came to the conclusion that it was next to impossible to legitimately escape with a human rake in that time limit. And there isn't much incentive to actually sticking your neck out and trying to complete it in that time limit, except I guess for a feeling of accomplishment in itself. Because if you survive the entire round but don't get the car repaired, the only consequence is an anticlimactic wall of text that says the rake won. And there is no kind of deterrence during the round to just camping in one spot for an extended period of time. I don't know what kind of deterrent could be added for that, but this is still something to point out. I don't know. Maybe if you sit still for too long, something comes along, some kind of animal, makes noise that could summon the rake and draw you out of hiding to at least move to a different spot. It's an idea. We eventually decided that we really wanted to see what, if anything, happened if the survivors managed to completely repair the car and escape inside the time limit. So we wound up letting Ashton play the rake and just follow us around or run around the map while Tubby and I found the parts. Hi. I actually didn't mean to flashbang you. I accidentally pressed B instead of V. And we were honestly kind of surprised and delighted to see this cutscene of the survivors driving away in the car. I was fully expecting another disappointing text over a black screen, so that was nice. So, the armory. There is an armory in the game where you can access firearms and potentially kill the rake instead of repair the car. That's a neat idea. The way it's implemented in this game, though, is kind of annoying and dumb. The armory is locked with a combination lock. That makes sense. It sounds an alarm if you get the combination wrong. Again, makes sense. The combination lock is one in which the numbers you have to input are associated with these random symbols, and rather than just have the combination written on a single piece of paper or something that you as the survivors have to find, the way you determine which digits go to which symbol is to scour each house and possibly the barn, I don't remember, and find these plaques in random spots that tell you which number applies to which symbol. Which is dumb. That's really dumb. And we honestly had no clue about this whatsoever until Tubby Googled it. We were determined to open this armory at least once before we got off the game, so we switched to an AI-controlled rake and cribbled it as much as we could in the lobby settings, changed the lock on the armory from a 4-input lock to a 2-input lock, and gave ourselves unlimited time so we could take as long as we needed to figure this out.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
And the first time we tried this, we didn't know about the plaque thing, and so we tried logicking out the puzzle and then putting in numbers at random, and that's when we discovered...
Oh my god. Too many failed attempts. Lock system is broken.
The second time around, we knew what we were doing, so we set about finding the combination, and we got so bored searching around at one point that we just started throwing rocks at each other to see if we could get the AI-controlled rake to kill any of us. Well, I'm out of rocks. And in theory, yes, it could, though we nerfed our AI rake to such a degree that that is the lengths we had to go to even come close to getting killed by it. Except for Ashton, he got killed by it somehow. I even tried to flashbang it myself to save him, but it didn't work. It took us collectively about 15 minutes to find even one part of the combination, and then Tubby randomly found the second part and put that in sometime later. We opened the armory, started packing heat. We were ready to kill this ugly motherfucker, and it killed us both in about 30 seconds. Tubby and I both had plenty of flashbang left, but for whatever reason it did not work for either of us this time around. I don't know if that's a bug or if the developers intentionally made it so that you couldn't use your flashbang while you were carrying a gun or what. But yeah, it turns out a guaranteed way to get killed by an AI rake that is nerfed to the fullest extent the game allows is to arm yourself and start shooting it. For one thing, the armory sounds its alarm when you open it for a good minute, which obviously attracts the rake. For another, the guns are so underpowered that it's questionable if they were having any effect on it whatsoever. And that was about the point my friends and I decided we were done playing for the night. Yeah, that's In Silence. Pretty much Slender the 8 Pages or Slender the Arrival by way of Evolve, which I can say with complete honesty I've never seen before. Not on the whole a bad experience, but one that's rough around the edges. But that's early access for you, and I'm happy to see and say that these developers are using early access the way it's supposed to be used. They have an idea, and they want feedback to see where they might need improvement. It may not be a wildly original idea, but there's fun to be had here. I see where they're going with it. I think the visuals could use some refinements. The houses are a bit nondescript and samey. Maybe this would be too distracting from the core of the game, but some world-building touches in the houses wouldn't go amiss. Family photos, little knickknacks. Not these! Maybe some flavor text if they wanted to be extra ambitious with it. Though again, I can see the argument that an unfettered design where that is concerned is more conducive to the core of the game. I'm kind of two minds about it, honestly. There are some balancing tweaks that could be made though. Like I said, some way to discourage hiding out and forcing players to become involved would be nice. Some performance and connection hiccups here and there, those should probably be addressed. The armory and the guns. Make the armory puzzle less contrived and less obtuse to figure out. Oh yeah, and make the guns more effective than harsh language, please. Those are my notes. Take them how you will, developers, if you're even watching this video, which would be incredible because nobody watches my videos. And to everyone else out there, I hope you liked this video, found it entertaining or informative. Yeah, give In Silence a try if you have a group of 3 or more friends to play it with. Games like these are always more enjoyable with people you know over pubby randos. Use the in-game proximity chat too, it really adds to the experience. And that's all for today, boys and girls. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Today, I'm going to teach you how to face your fears. Now, the first step to facing your fears is...